Hi, everybody. This is Scott Homan, director of Witness Underground.
And I am Ryan Sutter, the proprietor of Nuclear Gopher Productions.
Hey everybody, real quick before we get started with the Halloween episode featuring Wesley David and Wesley David music, Ryan and I chat with Wesley about all kinds of things, and it's a really fun episode. We dive into the religion more than we ever have before, which is interesting, and especially about music. David he's like a touring musician, and he's back. He just got back to the West Coast after a tour out east. So I wanted to just quick say that we have a t-shirt that we just launched. It's two different t-shirt designs on a bunch of different colors, a bunch of different products, a bunch of different every size you can think of. That supports our next film project. That supports the concert November 12th in Minneapolis with the Sound Unseen Music and Film Festival and the Hook and Ladder concert venue. And so please buy a t-shirt because that only runs for the next 3 weeks, and that supports our whole operation, and we'd really appreciate it. Supports the film, supports Exjw coming out. Like, it's all one thing, and it goes towards those causes. And then if you do go to the show November 12th in Minneapolis, there'll be t-shirts there to buy, but there are limited colors, options, and sizes. And right now you can watch the film at the Portland Film Festival. And if you are in the Minneapolis area or you're willing to travel and you're nearby, like in Wisconsin, Iowa, or in the countryside, Minnesota, please come down and Chicago. A lot of Chicago connections to the Exjw the Jehovah's Witness music scene back there, and it'd be really cool to see some more folks that came up to the Madison Film Festival come up to the Minneapolis one and bring your friends. That is all those tickets are on sale now for the Women's Club at 6:00 on November 12th. Shows at 6:30, goes to 8:30. Tickets are $12, and the Hook and Ladder after party is going to feature 3 bands. It's Ryan Sutter music, Puff Puff, covers of the Lavone songs, and a huge finale with High TV. It's going to be an incredibly amazing thing. It's easily like the pinnacle of everything we wish we could achieve with this film. It's happening, and someone's threw the party for us at a film festival. So they really wanted to celebrate our film through making it a marquee, key event of the year for their festival. And they really wanted to highlight the film. So buy your tickets to come see the film there in person. And we're going to have a merch table. James is going to sell his book. We're going to have CDs of all the bands and a sampler you can get, and we're going to do a pre-sale for the vinyl that's coming out pretty soon. It'll come out probably early next year, but it's a pre-sale if you want to get involved in the vinyl. That'll help us fund the operation. But anyway, show up for that. Buy your tickets now. The after party is going to be insane. It's going to be at the Hook and Ladder Theater and Lounge after the screening at the Women's Club. Thank you. Enjoy the episode.
Oh my God. Leave meeting. Run away from meeting. Got it.
You're a smart man.
This is the Witness Underground podcast. Today we have Ryan Sutter, per usual, myself, Scott Homan, director of Witness Underground, and Wesley David of Wesley David Music. Real quick, if you've never heard of Witness Underground, it's a documentary film about a cult and a music scene that arises within a cult and the exits of the people at the core of the scene as they funnel out of the religion. And it's a documentary film that's at the Portland Film Festival right now. You can stream it, and it is also going to be at the premiere event of the year for us, the dream come true for Witness Underground and everyone involved, at Sound Unseen in Minneapolis at November 12th on Friday at the Women's Club at 6:30 p.m., Q&A at 8. And then we're going to play, they throw an after party for all the people involved, there's going to be 3 bands that are in the film, all playing live at a place called Hook and Ladder Lounge and Theater in Minneapolis from 9 to probably 2 in the morning, and the party will ensue. Please come, buy a t-shirt, buy CDs, support the artists, that kind of thing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
There's no plan to sleep at any point that night.
Not at all. 0. Only uppers.
Ryan, you're playing that night, right? On the 12th? Or?
It's going to be me with my band Awkward Bodies. Normally,
cool.
We don't play my music, but they've been nice enough to learn a bunch of my songs. So
cool.
Yep.
And are you going to play any old Nuclear Gopher stuff, or some of the people that we see in the documentary? Would anybody else be joining you up there, or Scott, do you want to jump in, or what's the band lineup for the show?
Ryan knows.
I do, and I can tell you. So yes, High TV, who
nice.
Obviously kind of the big live set at the end of the documentary. If you haven't seen the documentary, High TV is a a band that features two of the other folks in the film, Eric and Cindy. They are married to each other. I'm proud to say High TV is a band that formed in my basement, and they recorded a bunch of really great music, but then they got married and stopped making music for the most part because they got busy with life and whatever. So it's really cool. They haven't been on stage in a long time, and they're going to be up there playing. And then we've got some special guests. The special guests, I think I can go ahead and say there's another band called Puff Puff that is going to be playing. That was one of Cindy's other projects. And then I'm going to be doing a small set of some of my brother Rhett's songs. I'm just going to perform solo acoustic with piano.
Awesome.
So we're going to have kind of a little, we're going to have my set. We're going to have a Rhett tribute. We're going to have Puff Puff. We're going to have High TV. And there might be another couple songs in there where we might play some of the old stuff with kind of all hands. We've got a bunch of people involved. So we're still planning to do a couple of full dress rehearsal practices between now and 2 weeks from now that will possibly, almost certainly wind up adding a couple more songs to the mix. So it's gonna be pretty cool.
Is
Chloe
sorry.
possibly?
Yeah, Chloe.
We'll probably play some Chloe songs. I'm
Okay.
guessing. I don't know for sure. I haven't actually been too privy to what the Eric and Cindy component of this is planning to do, and Cindy would be the Chloe person, but I would probably expect we'll throw a Chloe song or two in there.
Cool.
I have Scott, this is your podcast, so tell me to shut the hell up. But Ryan and Scott, obviously, I loved the documentary and I related to it greatly. And I grew up in New Jersey, but Pennsylvania, where I went to high school and then homeschooled, funny enough. But we had like a little scene somewhat comparable, although it seems like your like kind of witness band scene was larger and also more experimental with some of the video stuff you guys did.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you would talk about how many. I had two questions. Would you talk about how many bands there were and how many of them, to your knowledge, are still playing, even if some of them are still in the organization? And then randomly, but I didn't want to forget, the song which ends the documentary by Chloe, I thought was freaking beautiful. And I also wanted to know where, I'm sure you guys will plug, but where can people find some of the Chloe material or other stuff from that era online?
So a lot of the old Nuclear Gopher music has actually been available on all the major streaming services and stuff since the 90s. We used to use a distributor called The Orchard that has kept everything available, which is kind of amazing. The SP3 album Next Stop World Domination, I sent that off to The Orchard in 1997. You can still order it on Amazon or stream it on Spotify now.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So that's really cool. We've also put up a Nuclear Gopher Vault Bandcamp where we've got a bunch of the old albums are available to download and stream. I think that's ngpvault.bandcamp.com.
Cool.
And really, I think in terms of like how many bands and how many of them are still active, I think there were. I kind of, there's a little bit of a fuzzy line because there's some people who were at festivals we did and their bands played, but we never released any of their music officially. Right. Or there were people who bands went through a couple different permutations with different names. Sometimes somebody got disfellowshipped and you wound up with a different band.
Right.
But there was probably a dozen bands all told. Wow. And there were, oh gosh, I don't know that any of them are still making music, to be honest with you. The last thing that was, oh, there you are, you're back. The last thing that was released that I'm aware of, the Akai, which was my sister Robbie, her husband Hiromi, and about like 10 other people. It was this huge kind of broken social scene, polyphonic spree type, epic large scale thing. They released 2 records that were actually after Nuclear Gopher turned into Band Kids Unite. And as far as I know, it's the last thing that ever came out.
Actually, you know what? I know something that maybe you don't know about then, because I listened to something that your brother sang on. I think he was more like a featured artist on it. And it was actually, I think it's a non-witness, like a normal person. And I your brother sang on a song or two, and then Justin Grimes also sang on a song or two. And those dudes are still in the religion, I think.
I remember actually hearing about that, and
3 years ago.
that was a witness who was.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, he was. That was. I believe those were recordings by Tim Goldenick, and Tim was in one of Reed's early Witness bands, and he also produced the B side of one of Cy Park's records. So Tim was part of the old Nuclear Gopher scene. And the last song that I know by my brother, if we're gonna make this all about them, which I don't mind. I love their music and I love those people. There's a song called "As Long as It's Tomorrow." It's like the closing track on the second Akai record. That's the last song that is like a Reed song that I've heard. I love that song. Gets me teary every time I hear it. It's so good. Such a good song.
Cool. I just I did just finally watch the documentary about 4 days ago. Extremely late, but the last song was pretty. A lot of the music was amazing, but the last song, "Don't Break" or "Don't Break Me,"
like
Chloe in the credits.
Was, that's actually High TV.
Phenomenal.
Oh, that was High TV. That's High TV.
Okay.
Yeah. "Don't Break Down."
Yeah.
Was that's Cindy singing that, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that song's phenomenal.
Cindy was
terrific. Yeah.
She was her and my sister Robbie started Chloe together when they were both teenagers, and they were originally called Tetsuo, and I did their first few recordings in my apartment, and then they did this show at a coffee shop that shows up in the documentary for like a brief little section, and then they found out there was a band in Chicago called Tetsuo. They changed the name to Chloe, and then they did "Hello, My Name is Chloe" and the Chloe After School special. And I think you can't get "Hello, My Name is Chloe" anymore, but you can get the Chloe After School special. That's still available.
Speaking of bands like that you should check out, I just watched a documentary at the Portland Film Festival called "Skating Polly," and they're this two young women who've been playing music since they were like 8 and 12 years old together as a band, and they're like 10 years into their band career. And you know the band X from the 70s 80s?
Yeah.
Exjw. She's like mentoring them and somehow is connected to them, so they're like connected to Vigo from Lord of the Rings and Exjw from the X. And it was Exjw from X's son who made the film. Anyway, they tour all over the country together. They go to Europe and tour, and they're amazing. Like, they of course start out sort of like simple and raw as young people, but now their songwriting is just phenomenal. And everyone should check out "Skating Polly." It's so
Another
good.
band like that, similar story from the local Twin Cities area, is called Loki's Folly, and it's sisters, two sisters who are both teenagers. I want to say like one's like 13, one's like 18, and I think they just started now getting joined by their younger brother who's like 10 or 11. But
cool.
They've been working with Ryan Smith from Ryan and Pony and Soul Asylum, and they've been doing some stuff lately that is really cool. So shout out to another cool band with some young kids making cool music that makes me happy. You totally should check out Loki's Folly and Skating Polly, and they rhyme, which is nice.
They should do a show together.
One of my it just occurred to me, one of my all-time favorite 90s bands is from Minneapolis, Semisonic.
Oh yeah.
And Dan Wilson.
Dan Wilson.
Yeah.
You know any of those people, Ryan? Have you ever met them or run across them?
I have not met the Wilson brothers. No, I know some people who know them, but no, sadly, have not.
The 90s. Are we all 90s fans?
I'm everything fans, but I do love. There's a lot of great music from the 90s.
Like all my early music I wrote was very influenced by the 90s alternative world. Soundgarden. I was a huge Soundgarden fan back in the day. The grunge era, the Seattle scene.
I can tell from stuff of years I've heard.
Yeah.
And the horns too make a pretty dead giveaway, Scott.
Okay, great. I was hoping someone would bring that
up. You're still angry.
Like
I'm wearing flannel. You've got horns on. I don't know. I can't tell what Ryan's wearing, but
I assume
he's angry.
My trusty Fear the Walk-In shirt. So I think that.
Wait, can we see? Can the viewing audience see that?
It's actually the T-shirt I'm wearing in the documentary. Apparently, it's the only shirt I own.
Oh my God!
You have 15 seconds to show that before it's a copyright issue.
Nice.
Actually, people were asking me, is that like a legit copyright issue to see Christopher Walken's face all the time? I'm like, I mean, it's a graphic representation of it. It's not really
No.
Christopher Walken.
It's just a
Right?
t-shirt,
No.
guys.
T-shirt.
Come on.
Yeah.
Ink on cotton.
If we actually pretended it was really Christopher Walken and like deep faked him onto my shirt, that might be a problem.
He'd probably be into it.
He probably
He's
would,
a
actually.
ham.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
So speaking of 90s, Wesley, you do a lot of piano bar stuff and tour doing covers and probably some solo stuff. What is that like being a touring artist?
It's fun, man. I've been doing it for almost 11 years now. After
Wow.
I went to school for music, kind of unexpectedly, because leaving the organization was unexpected. But yeah, I kind of fell into it when I moved out to Arizona to be close to family who live out there. And one thing led to another. I got some training, and I actually finally learned how to play piano to a better, oldies and rock and pop and all that jazz. And yeah, we play a lot in Arizona, play in California. I did a stint out in Branson, Missouri, which is like the Vegas of the South.
Yeah. Nice.
I used to play in Little Rock, Arkansas, Virginia. We did a gig in Ireland, in Dublin.
Cool.
They saw us play in San Francisco and then flew us out to Dublin to play.
Is this with a band specifically, or is that as you, or what's the?
It's usually dueling piano, so it's two players like back and forth playing
cool.
cover songs, and it's like a whole show. I think there's one in Minneapolis. It might be a Howl at the Moon or a similar piano bar like chain. But I think there's one in downtown there.
By the way, the thing that really triggered me about wanting to talk to you was that I loved your website.
Oh, thank you.
The Wesley David website, wesleydavidmusic.com. It is straight out of GeoCities. 1995.
Yes.
So great.
GeoCities, Netscape. That's right.
Westscape.
That's when the internet died for me. Lived and died. Yeah. Yeah.
The internet used to be cool and weird.
Oh my God. Yes.
And it was just so illogical and non-corporate, and it was beautiful.
It was beautiful. Yeah. And it was right. And it was before pre-advertising, at least the current era of advertising, pre-social media, before a lot of the bad stuff about being targeted by algorithms and the way that the current designs of the internet and social media work. Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. I fondly remember the 90s internet, AOL, and in fact, that's how I feel like I owe that I'm not part of the society anymore to the internet. I'm sure I've met a lot of XJWs on Instagram and Reddit who can say the same thing, that like the dawn of the internet, especially like late 90s or early 2000s, was a huge part of getting the access to the information to leave the organization. And Ryan, I think that's part of your story as well. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny. There's a little thing I didn't share during the making of the movie, because obviously I didn't share everything in my life. But about a year before I left, I got into this big creation versus evolution debate on a Usenet group called Talk Origins. It was sort of back in the. Actually, no, I think this debate took place in a group called comp.sys.mac.advocacy, and it was for Mac and PC flame wars. And somebody made some comments about how creationists were all morons, and as a witness I jumped in to defend creationism and really thought I was laying down the hammer for my beliefs. And I've gone back and on the Google groups found this thread later, and I got my ass kicked by these evolution people, and I couldn't admit it at the time. I was just tucked tail and ran, and it didn't change my mind about anything. But I sometimes go back to that and think, I wonder if that's what got the background process going in my head. Because it was about it was about 3 years later when I actually popped out. But it stuck in my craw that I thought I was making really good points, and then I looked like an idiot. And then eventually that was the subject that wound up kind of freeing my mind. So I've actually gone back and found that thread and reread it, just sort of like okay, remember where you came from.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's archived for posterity for the rest of time. The time you got into a fight trying to defend creationism online and got your ass kicked. Okay, it's good. I'm glad that's there.
Remind me to ask Scott for permission to go down a rabbit hole about the Wayback Machine at some point, but
I love the
I don't want to bore the audience either about what we could
go for
talk
it.
about.
No, we can talk about anything.
90s internet.
Yeah.
Ryan, would you talk any more about so I actually told Scott I kind of put off, I wasn't like intentionally, but I kind of put off watching the documentary a few weeks after I could have, because I knew I felt I was going to relate to it, and it was going to be a bit heavy, and it was heavy, but I really related to the learning about like Noah's flood and like a few other things where I think tell me if I'm wrong, but thanks also to the internet and just learning about science as an adult, right? Not just whatever at age 10 or something before you could process it, but learning about the science and like questioning like whether or not the Garden of Eden could have had a functioning ecosystem and things like that, which kind of led you to question the organization's, I'd say cherry-picked literal interpretations at times of the Bible and non-literal when it suits them. But
if you think about,
I went through something similar. That's all I was going to lead up to. But.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of people that I've talked to have. I mean, it's such a well. If you grew up a witness and you grew up in the theocratic ministry school,
yeah,
there are whole paragraphs and things you get graded on in the TMS about like making valid arguments. They actually go through and they talk about what's a fallacy. They talk about how to build a construct a proper argument, how to be honest, all this stuff. They lay it out for you. And I mean, I think I gave my first talk in the theocratic ministry school when I was like 5. So it's not like I didn't know what proper reasoning was supposed to look like. And it just, I did say this in the documentary, it wasn't just that they were wrong. It's the fact that they used all these dishonest tactics to argue their position. It's like, well, if you're right, then you should be able to follow your own rules of logic and reasoning, and you should be able to be honest in your arguments, and you shouldn't use misquotations and cherry picking things and logical fallacies and all. Like, you just shouldn't do that if you're on the side of the angels, right? That's the behavior you take. That's the stance you take when you have an invalid argument and you're just trying to prop it up by whatever means necessary. And the creation book is nothing but that. Like, the entire book is just kind of cherry picked, randomly constructed to look good, put everything in the best light, straw man arguments and fallacies. Right. And that was the part that really upset me, because honestly, it wasn't like I got science down first and said, oh, well, clearly evolution is true. I didn't actually know anything about evolution. I just knew that the basics of the story of the Garden of Eden didn't work. And then I said, okay, well, I'm going to go back and revisit this, and I'm going to prove to myself that it's possible, right? I must have missed something. And then when I started looking at it from that kind of critical perspective, I was like, well, they didn't prove the point they just claimed they made, and they didn't prove this point either, and they didn't prove this point either. And it kind of started to really, like, I started to go, wait a second, the truth doesn't work this way.
Right.
And I've talked to other people who kind of said like the same thing, like that book actually intending to defend their views actually sort of undermines them pretty badly.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of things about, and there's a million things about the about the Bible that we could, I mean, like Noah's flood. I also remember with my friends who were a bunch of alienated intellectuals at the meetings. Noah's flood was one of the bigger ones actually that we sort of had a problem with, but as a kid, usually accept the society's answer that this is what we're saying, and it's also faith, I think. But
how old were you when you decided it wasn't true?
I was 20 when I was like chemo, but then I was 21 when I finally left, like, for good. I'm 38 now, so it's been 16 and a half years ish. It's been a while.
Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you.
That story though is so cartoonishly childish, and like it doesn't actually hold up to any logic or any history. There's like no proof of any floods on any scale close, right? Like nothing ever did that. So if you look anything up, it's like there's no supporting evidence, and the only people that are defending it are young Earth creationists who think the entire planet and the entire universe are 6,000 years old. Which there's plenty of evidence that that's not true.
Right. Yeah. I'll be putting it mildly. Yeah. I saw a Ricky Gervais stand-up special once that went into Noah's flood. It was really funny. About like a kid's book, and like just the giraffes took up like 1/3 of the ark, let alone like the other 5 to 10 like million viable species that would have been alive at the time of the flood if biblical chronology is correct. So where were those millions of animals going to hide out in the boat is kind of a problem.
Right.
I don't know if either of you relate to this, but I was an angry teenager a lot, and part of being pissed off sitting in meetings was Old Testament verses, which like as I got older actually bothered me more. The descriptions of like the God of the Old Testament, how he's portrayed, certain actions. David commits a census sin in one of the Old Testament books where he counts commits like a census of the population. And Jehovah didn't request that and didn't want it, and something like 80 or 90,000 Israelites, including women and children, were killed because of David's sin. This sticks out in my mind because I think I might have been 16 or 17, so it was a couple years before I ultimately moved away from the organization, but it struck me then just kind of the absurdity of it, and got me. It always sticks out to me as the verse that got me angry, but with a direction, that something was odd about this portrayal of a loving father. The Old Testament versus the New Testament also.
Yeah. Well, on that point, there's two things I want to say there. One is, if that many people died, it would be a huge, outrageous event. Like people would be, all the survivors would be suffering deeply. Like everyone was affected by those many deaths in mourning. And it just seems like the logical conclusion is that those people died for some completely unrelated reason. And then the people who survived concluded that, it must have been our king who did this stupid new law that we hated. He counted. God hates counting things.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's a relief when you really dig into any real Old Testament scholarship, and you learn sort of about the biblical criticism that started in Germany a few hundred years ago, and like that sort of has gone through and done the textual analysis and has cross-referenced it to what we now know from archaeology and from Canaanites and the other different cultures in that area. And it's kind of a relief to learn how much of that is just bullshit that never happened, right? Like to learn that so many of those stories, which are terrible and horrible things, that they were written by later generations as just so stories about the past to sort of strike fear and whatever. And at least the saving grace, if there is any, is there really weren't 80,000 people killed. Like, it's a terrible story to venerate it, and it's a terrible idea that you would want your God to do that kind of thing.
Right.
But when you actually look and you're like, well, actually almost everything in the Bible that is before about the establishment, a certain period of time in which the 12 tribes were reunited and they established the kingdom of like around David's time, almost everything before that never happened. It's not historically valid, and all those Canaanite cities that were wiped out and all those terrible, horrible things, they were just like kind of stories about how badass their predecessors were and the judges and all that. And it's like there's not one shred of evidence to believe that any of that actually occurred, which is kind of a little tiny bit of a relief, to be honest. To me, it was kind of like, well, I mean, okay, so I get it. These were kind of primitive people writing stories, and sometimes, I mean, even Grimm's fairy tales are not 2,000 years old, but they have horrible things, like violent, awful things. And people used to use stories like that as to maintain power or for political reasons or
Right.
culture. And I found that I went through a phase where that stuff was super fascinating to me. Like I was like, how the hell did we wind up with this set of beliefs?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because this stuff really happened? Is it because some of it happened, but other things happened that these were all just stories and this is all just fiction? And in some ways, when you find out which parts are fiction and which parts are really history, it's like kind of, I don't know. I found it as kind of a very interesting. I had to go through that phase for me to kind of put the Bible in a proper context so that I wasn't just mad. Because I know what you mean, like about being kind of like going through a phase where you're just kind of like, this is an atrocity. And you talk about what witnesses look forward to with Armageddon and wiping out all these people. That's an atrocity. And I don't want to celebrate an atrocity that hasn't happened or an atrocity that's supposed to happen but really won't. It just no, right? Like I don't want to be signed up for that.
Oh my God. Sorry. All right. Ready.
You just noticed my Halloween costume again.
Yeah, I had to do a double take. I'm ready.
Look, I'm wearing a shirt with. Never mind. Go ahead. I'm not going to redo everything.
And we're back.
Let's just try to remember everything we said in the first half hour before the break, and see if the audience can. And let's say it all again, the same order. Awesome. See if the audience can.
That's a great idea.
Can pick it up. Be like a feat.
It's a segue from what you were saying before. I read a lot of archaeology news, and I came across an article about Sodom and Gomorrah. So Sodom and Gomorrah, everyone dies except for Lot, and his wife gets turned to salt on the way out of the city, and his two daughters, they all live in a cave, and then of course there's incest immediately because the women are like, no, we have to screw our dad so we can make babies. That story.
There's also that gang rape section.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right. The pre God destroying the city gang rape scenario.
That's a fun section.
That's a good one.
Lot wants to throw his righteous daughters to the mob of evil homosexuals who are there to rape the angels, right? Yep. That story, that wholesome childhood story.
At all.
I guess when you put it that way, there's a song, Ryan. There's a song there somewhere. Three of us should.
Let's work on that. Let's go on that.
That'll be a real family-friendly one for kids can enjoy.
So this article was people have been researching this for decades, and they finally came to a conclusion about what actually destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. And have you heard of the Tunguska event of like 1912 or something?
Yeah, it was an asteroid strike or something. Yeah.
Comet.
Huh?
Comet fragment. Actually, you know what? It might have been an asteroid fragment. Something came from space, a space chunk, and it comes down and it superheats, and then before it impacts the Earth and creates a crater and explodes the material, it actually explodes in the air and creates an air burst that destroys everything. So there's all this evidence. We have studied known comet airbursts in the past. So this archaeological site of Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed by a comet airburst.
Wow.
And it had nothing to do with God. I mean, I guess if there was an all-powerful God, he could have destroyed a city with a comet airburst. But he said nothing about that in the book he wrote.
Well, I mean, God, you're nitpicking. He's an artist, dude. Like comets are, you wouldn't understand. It's what he does.
He's an artist of death. He likes to kill people in large quantities in beautiful ways. The rest of us just don't appreciate it in the same way that we ought to.
Exactly. I'm glad we're on the same page. Yeah.
Actually, there was, if you're into what it looks like when exactly what Scott just talks about happened, there was another one that happened in Chelyabinsk in 2013 in Russia. And this was in 2013. So this was caught on a shit ton of cameras.
I think I saw the videos. It was like this thing rushing across the sky.
Goes across the sky, and then there's this massive shockwave in this whole town. It's like, and there's a Nova special on PBS that is all about it. And holy crap. I mean, that wasn't even as large as what happened in Tunguska. It certainly wasn't as large as the I don't know how to pronounce it, but the big one that knocked the dinosaurs out, that made that massive crater.
Chicxulub or something.
Yeah, Chicxulub, Chick-fil-A, something. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, that's scary. But I mean, if it's kind of like how there's also some evidence that it's possible that the flood stories that predate the Bible and go back to other, you can go back to like Epic of Gilgamesh and things like that from before, long before the Israelites existed. There's some people who argue that when the Bosporus Strait flooded and caused the Black Sea, I'll say it's the Black Sea, to fill up and go from being like a small local lake to being a whole friggin' like ocean inland sea. That was the initial event that put the story into the local cultures about this.
Yeah, that was a National Geographic. My dad and I talked about it as witnesses. Like, this could be the story of a part of the story of the flood, and it was so interesting that they never did a follow up. But there's like at the half the depth of the Black Sea, or some known depth, there's an ancient shoreline, and all the archaeological creatures there that they go below there are freshwater, and there's like settlements and old foundations of buildings. And then it's been saltwater ever since. And it's actually when the Mediterranean filled up from the rising seas, spills into the Black Sea and fills it up. But then they calculated the rate at how fast that happened. They're like, people would have had to have walked at least 1 mile an hour to get ahead of the shoreline creep. You're like, that sounds like devastating that you lost your house. But you're like, oh no, we have to walk. Like, quick, everybody, walk at a really casual pace.
Think about it, though.
The days before bikes and horse and buggy.
Yeah.
Maybe dragging your belongings.
No, they might have had horse and buggy.
But you would have had tens of thousands of people potentially impacted. They would have carried that story to other places, and they would have
embellished
survived.
The hell out of it.
Like, most of them would have survived, right? To tell the story. So, I mean, it's interesting. I don't know how relevant it is, though, honestly, because like we were told that in this year, the entire world, even like Mount Everest, was all covered.
Yeah.
And it's like, no.
Are you?
Sorry, side topic. This book you should all check out. It's fascinating.
Cool.
Graham Hancock, America Before. He's known, and he admits all throughout the book that he's like considered a pseudoscientist.
He's definitely a fringe dude who explores some fringy things.
You know about him?
Oh yeah.
No? Okay.
He's kind of like a kind of along the lines of I love the stuff that he talks about, because there's always really fascinating weird stuff in there that is true, and it gives you a lot to chew on. I don't know if I always agree with his conclusions, but I've got some. Yeah,
same. I have
America before we were here.
America. It's actually, it has a lot to do with Native American culture, Native American history, but he goes into like the DNA evidence for where Native Americans in North America came from, and Jews.
They came from the Jews.
The Lamanites.
I learned that from
being the only Jew here. I think I can testify to this. I believe so.
You need credit for that one. You can have that one.
Right. Yep. No, the Mormons. I didn't mean to derail this. But I did a whole thing once at a hall with some close friends. One of whom is a musician who's like out of the organization. I'd love to connect you guys actually, and I'd love him to see the documentary. He's one of my best friends. But we spent an after service session for a few hours actually learning and reading from the Book of Mormon at the hall, and
so funny.
Yeah, and trying to get a little bit acquainted with some of their beliefs. I had a friend, and I grew up with in New Jersey, who was Mormon, and then in Arizona there's quite a lot of them. There actually are some. It's not a ton of belief similarities, but there are some organizational and structural similarities between Latter-day Saints and Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
Well, both groups kind of started in the same general fervor religion in New York at around the same time period. So we have some definite overlap. Right. I'm curious about one thing, it's kind of a pivot, but I want to get back to your music for a second. You do the dueling pianos thing. Talk about your own music. Do you release anything? Do you have anything? What's out there? Hey, there we go.
Is that what I think it is? Yeah. Is that vinyl?
It is.
Whoa.
Nice.
Yeah. Man. What's that?
We need to learn from you. We're trying to get a vinyl press of some archival.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're kind of expensive. Mobaneco. It's pretty great. Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm actually I mean, my original music is my real inspiration and what I started doing long before the piano gigs, which is the piano gigs has kind of become like a career thing, but is more like a day job in a way, a good day job, a fun day job. But yeah, I mean, I have a lot of original songs, and I went to school for classical, and the thesis was a original composition and all that kind of that jazz. So yeah, I'm sort of kind of all in putting out music of my own now online and going from there. But
here's my question for you. Since you left around 20, you said,
yep.
Did you go to school after you left? And second question, if you had had a active musical life while you were a witness, would it have kept you in longer, even if you had, or would it made you wait before you question the beliefs? Like, so for me, I probably would have left a lot earlier, except I was doing all this music stuff and was having a lot of fun. I didn't have a lot of incentive to go questioning things. I was in the middle of such a vibrant music community, and I was enjoying it so much that
we're back.
Oh my God, you sound so heavenly. Oh.
Yeah,
thank you.
Silky.
So hellish. I mean,
like me to just say. Yeah. Question that kind of just boils down to: do you think it would have made a difference? Like, I wondered about this for myself, so that's why you're in a comparative situation.
Yeah, I mean, music saved me. I wrote and played prolifically as a teenager, and yeah, I was very angry a lot for some of the like intellectual reasons about the organization and going out in service, and then a lot about wanting to be in a real band one day. There's a band, I think it might just be a guy. He's in California. He's in Central California, connected with on Instagram, and his like artist name is The Bloody Tuesdays. He made an album. It's on Bandcamp, and it is unbelievably good. About like every song is either overtly or indirectly about the organization. There's one song called "The Light Gets Brighter." I posted to my story. It's like shoegaze pop rock, but it's fantastic.
Yeah, actually, I listened to the whole album. He has
great.
2 albums out now.
Oh, and 2? Okay, yeah,
it's
terrific.
Solid all the way through.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I just kept on looping it. I've been chatting with them a little bit.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Another one you might want to check out is from somebody else in the documentary. I think you can find this on Bandcamp. Chad in the documentary, he's got a band called Ghost Army. Okay. And they've got an album called Sleepywood Dojo. And I just absolutely love that record. It just absolutely kills. It is so good.
And actually, you put one song in the film.
Was it Angst is Fucking Boring?
No, it actually has a JW connection.
I know the one you're talking about, but the title
Stand Firm.
Stay Awake, Stand Firm, Grow Mighty.
Yeah, but that's the Jehovah's Witness title. There's like twist it to be.
What was everyone's
becoming
favorite song? Did you guys have a favorite song as kids?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I want to hear everybody else's first.
Yeah. In case is it embarrassing?
First, Wesley.
No, mine's totally lame.
Make the Truth Your Own it was like fucking Vivaldi, which I listened to a lot as a kid with my mom in our van out in service. But yeah, it was like well written. One of the only really well written ones. That's mine.
I go way back. I'm old enough to have had the Pepto-Bismol songbook when I was a kid. How there's the brown one, right, with the hardcover, but before that there was a soft cover one that was exactly Pepto-Bismol pink, and that had the older version, the original OG version of Keep Your Eyes on the Prize was, I want to say, the last song in that book. And whenever we got to sing Keep Your Eyes on the Prize, I was very excited. And I don't know why, I just really liked that song when I was a kid, and I think it was because I liked the line, "When tongues of dumb ones fill the air," and then they went and edited and changed it to tongues of mute ones, because I always thought it was about people who were stupid were still going to get to live forever.
I always liked the metal song, Dun, 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 dun,
Mm.
dun, 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 dun,
Dark
dun,
days are
dun,
here,
dun,
men
dun,
live in fear.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that one's
yeah.
good.
I always wanted to cover that to make like the metal version. I'm sure someone has at this point.
That would be great.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
they pulled the plug on that one when they came out with the new songbook in the last like 8 years or whatever.
Do they still have the molesting bees one?
I hope so, because that makes people hate the Witnesses.
It is one of the best lines ever written in a lyric ever.
I brought a high school friend of mine to the Kingdom Hall once, and that song came on, and she looked at me like, "What the fuck is this? What are we doing here? You sing
Wait,
this?"
what song are we talking about? Why don't I know this?
The one that says something about like bees that were molested, but I will ever beat them off. Those are literally the lyrics to the song.
Jesus.
And it's something to do with, I don't know, the demons harassing you or something. Yeah, like a swarm of angry bees, and that you're supposed to be getting, beating the bees off of you. But the lyric is actually something like bees that were molested, but I will ever beat them off. And that's like a line that I would snicker at every single time we ever had to
forgot
sing
about that
it.
part.
That's great. No, I don't remember that for some reason. I've repressed that song, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't remember this song, but
It's hidden
that's
deep
funny.
in your memory.
yeah, that is funny. Huh.
Everybody go buy Wes's record. You can buy the vinyl. You can buy the CD. You can listen on all the streaming platforms.
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
And come watch our movie at Portland Film Festival. And if you can, fly to Minneapolis for November 12th and party with us all night that night.
Or if you're already in Minneapolis and you don't have to fly, that's even better.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Also, tell other people about this damn movie. We need people who watch this to tell their friends and family and other people we don't know.
Yeah.
Scott made a great movie. Tell people about it.
Yeah, amazing, Scott. Everything from you do this for a living. Everything from the cinematography to the editing is fantastic. Like it's really well paced. The story is well laid out. It's like really freaking great. So
thank you so much.
Congratulations to you guys and Ryan. Good luck playing, man. On the I'm looking forward to seeing the live show. So
I'll do my best not to
Godspeed.
screw it up too bad.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks.
Happy night. I wish I could be there. I'm playing a piano show on the 12th for the thing. Everything will be recorded, right? The performance. I take it in Minneapolis.
Oh, actually, that's a lovely
Somebody's-
segue. Scott, do you want to talk about what's going to happen with the performance on the 12th?